Hello everybody and welcome to the AppleBruit podcast number 13, the only podcast that talks about Apple rumors. Alright, I got a goal today of reaching 20 minutes or less for this podcast, and I have 34 articles to talk about, so let's get things started. According to WallStreetJournal.com, Apple is in talks with a bunch of these cable companies to let Apple TV, the puck, to let that broadcast live television. And again, this is from the Wall Street Journal, so they are a big hitter. They are they are a legitimate news source, so that is very strong indications that the Apple TV and the cable companies are probably going to start cooperating with each other. And speaking of the Apple TV, there is a DVR patent out there from apparently Apple, and they say that Apple has won a patent on the Apple TV puck that lets them use the Apple TV as a DVR. So again, more stuff on Apple TV and DVR. Also, 9to5mac.com says that, speaking of DVR, there are going to be cloud capabilities with Apple's new or what they plan to do with the cable companies. They say that there could be cloud capabilities. So if you want to record your show, it's going to be all the way up in the cloud. So instead of having to remember did I remember recording this thing? No, it's just going to be all the way up in the cloud, and you just kind of download your recorded shows. Also, that the iPad Mini that the Apple TV is probably going to get an iPad-like UI kind of refresh, because the current UI right now really does suck. That's according to everyone else, because I don't own an Apple TV right now. So you're gonna get like an NBC app, or it looks like an NBC app, but it's gonna be like the NBC channel, but it looks like an app. And also, sticking with the Apple TV, apparently, according to Peter Misek from the website MacRumors.com, Peter Misek says that Apple TV is in full production right now, and it could be released in Q4 2012 or Q1 2013. And I think that is not very likely, because there are so many things releasing right now that Apple doesn't really need to release the new Apple TV right at this year. Maybe in Q1 2013 is more likely. He also says that $1,250 could be the average price of this Apple set-top box, the Apple television, the actual television. He also says that Apple could keep making the puck as a set-top box for a bunch of these cable providers. And speaking of cable, this is actually a different type of cable. The iPad Mini dock connector cable has 10 pins. That's right. Apparently, from nowhereelse.fm, they have a picture of the first ever parts leak of the iPad Mini. And it really does, apparently, I haven't actually counted all the pins, but they say that it has 10 pins in it, and this kind of goes against the whole, 8-pin, 9-pin, 10-pin debacle. But I don't think that this parts leak is actually that credible, though. It does look like a legit Apple part, apparently, according to an iFixit employee. They say that it does look like an Apple parts, and it does somewhat resemble the iPhone 5 dock connector, but it's a little bit bigger, so that's why they think it could be for the iPad Mini. But here's the thing that I have a problem with it. It looks like it's actually a larger form of the iPhone 5's dock connector, in that it has a headphone jack at the bottom, right beside the home button and the mini dock connector. And I don't agree on that. I don't see Apple's iPad Mini having a headphone jack right beside the dock connector. Because think about it. If you held that thing in landscape mode and you had headphones on, your hands are just going to be smushing up right against that headphone jack. So yeah, keep that in mind. So I think it's a little bit of an uncertainty when it comes to this news. And sticking with the cable controversy, same website, nowhereelse.fr, they say that you know what? I already talked about that piece of news. And now onto, well, sticking with the iPad mini, the bezel. Apparently, from 9to5Mac.com, they say that the side bezels of the iPad mini will actually be smaller than usual. So what we did expect before this news article was that the iPad mini is gonna be just like the iPad, but shrunk a little bit. Well, it's gonna be like that, except it's gonna have thinner side bezels, kind of like the iPod Touch or the iPhone. If you look at your iPhone or iPod Touch right now, it does have thin side bezels. And at first I didn't agree with this because you're probably going to touch the screen whenever you're playing around with it. But if your hands could span the whole width of this iPad mini, then it is manageable to hold on to that thing. And my comment was, this looks like a sketchy piece of article, but I'm gonna retract that because iMore has actually, before iMore, there's actually a 3D rendering of this iPad mini from 9to5Mac.com, and it does look slick, and it comes from Maurizio Vitali. I don't know, I just wanted to say that in an Italian accent. So yeah, apparently there's an iPad mini 3D rendering out there, and it looks beautiful. It really does look slick. So anyway, Gizmodo.com also has a screen leak of the iPad mini, and they say that they have this iPad mini screen, and it's 7.85 inches, diagonally, and their sources are from China, and this source said, oh, this is totally the iPad mini, but it actually turned out to be the Kindle Fire's screen, which is actually quite unfortunate. But here's one thing that kind of blew it away for me, was that this screen wasn't a 4:3 or 3:4 aspect ratio. And if you were gonna see an iPad mini, I expect it to be a 4:3 aspect ratio, or you know what? Yeah. I'm going to keep going because I'm going to try to finish this in 20 minutes or less, remember? AppleInsider.com, talking about screen of the iPad mini, they say that the iPad mini's screen could have a coating of indium tin oxide. I have no idea what that is. It's called ITO, and it's made by Efun Technology. But I do have an idea of what it does. And apparently, what it does is it's a thin film on top of your iPad Mini, or any device at all. It could be any electronic device that reduces radio frequency interference, and that's actually, yeah, pretty useful because, you know what? I'm gonna keep going. 9to5Mac.com talks about the iPad mini schematics, because in July there was a leak, or not a leak, but I think iOS.com sent out this schematic for what they think the iPad mini is going to look like, or they say this is what the iPad mini is going to look like, and it did have a thin bezel, and now 9to5Mac is saying, you know what, this might be the right iPad mini. This might actually be correct. And sticking with the iPad mini, this is what I tried to transition with like 4 stories ago. iMore.com says that the iPad mini could be just as thin as the iPod Touch, and iMore actually has a rendering here of what the iPad mini could look like, kind of like a mock-up, and it looks slightly different from the 9to5Mac. So if you guys want to see kind of 2 different versions of what the iPad mini could look like, check out the 9to5Mac article and check out the iMore article. But yes, so they say that it's going to be just as thin as the iPod Touch, and right now I would be a little bit worried, because if you throw that thing in your backpack and you kind of sit on your backpack, I don't know what's up with me and sitting on stuff, but yeah, anyway, I would be a little bit worried if the iPad mini really was as thin as the iPod Touch. I would be worried about its strength and breaking that screen, but I probably shouldn't be worried because Apple knows how to make strong stuff. I can tell by the MacBooks that my brother has dropped a few times. AppleInsider.com still talking about the iPad mini, but this time they're not really reporting anything new. They're actually reporting, all the rumors that we have of the iPad mini. They kind of put all the rumors together and they made this giant article about it. And I recommend it if you guys want to keep up on a bunch of these iPad mini rumors. And there's one thing I didn't catch was in a few months ago, there was a case from ZooGue that said this could be the iPad's case. And right now it actually looks like it could be the iPad mini's case. And the interesting thing is, right now the iPad that we have right now has tapered bezels. Has a tapered edge on the back of it, but this one does not have a tapered edge. Instead, it looks kind of like the original iPhone, where it had like a rounded edge. So that's what the iPad mini could look like. But here's one thing that I don't agree with, is that this iPad mini shell from ZooGue actually has 3G capabilities, in that it has that slit at the top for that plastic 3G radio, and it also has a SIM card slot on the side. And I really don't see Apple putting 3G capabilities on this one, especially if they want to keep the price as low as possible. Though, why not put it in if people are willing to pay lots of money? I think Apple charges like an extra $150 for that 3G capability, but I think it only costs them like, I don't know, $20 or something like that. So yeah. Actually, those aren't facts, that $20 number. I just made that one up. According to imore.com, the iPad mini could cost more than $299. Why is that? That's because Apple does not like taking low margins. They absolutely don't. So Apple is probably going to have to put that iPad mini at $299 or above, because they want to keep their shareholders happy. Also, it doesn't make sense that if you had a $250 or maybe even a $200 iPad mini, it doesn't make sense for the iPad mini to have half the price of the iPad 2, which apparently is the iPad mini's, bigger brother. They're probably going to be pretty much the same specs on both of them, except the iPad mini is a little bit smaller. So you're going to put the same stuff in the iPad mini, but you're going to make it cost half as much as the iPad 2. So according to iMore, that doesn't really make sense. And reading iMore's article, I do agree with them, except that I really would like to see a $200 iPad mini. I mean, to get rid of the camera, get rid of a whole bunch of stuff. I just want to be able to see a $200 or a $250 iPad mini. And you know what? Moving on to the iPhone 5, nowhere else.fr, and I think this news article released right after I recorded last week's podcast. So this is probably like super old news. But apparently they have a picture of the iPhone 5's dock, and I don't know why, but for some reason I remember talking about this in last week's podcast. So I might be messed up in the head right now, and that's probably because I just had my exams and papers and all that stuff. But apparently, this iPhone 5 dock connector has 8 pins in it, and a lot of people are saying, yeah, since it has 8 contacts, it's gonna be an 8-pin connector. But there's actually a 9th pin, in that the metal ring around the contacts actually acts as ground, so that would be considered the 9th pin. And right up until this piece of article came out, I thought there is no way that Apple is going to make an 8-pin connector. But when this came out, all of a sudden I changed my mind, because I actually saw these pins, if they were true, if they were correct. And ZDNet.com talks about full dock refresh, right? I mean, these 8-pin, 9-pin, it doesn't really matter, how many pins there really are. What matters is there's going to be a huge change in these dock capabilities and connecting to all your devices and accessories. Well, ZDNet says that it's not possible for Apple to just refresh all their docks, and this was from news articles from a while ago, where they said Apple is totally going to refresh all of their iDevices to have these new 8-pin or 9-pin connectors. And ZDNet says, no, that's probably not going to happen, because Apple's supply chain, actually their supplies are going to have a really tough time refreshing all of these iDevices. And for another summary of the iPhone 5, AppleInsider.com has another one yet again, and this is actually for the 9-pin connector. And yeah, they just summarized all the rumors that's been around about this connector. So if you guys want to check that out, go ahead and go to AppleInsider.com. And now, still on the iPhone 5, 9to5Mac.com has a parts compilation of all of these iPhone 5 leaked parts, including the motherboard, which I forgot to talk about. Actually, yeah, I did forget to talk about that motherboard. But apparently, yes, the iPhone 5 parts that have been leaked out has been combined. So this guy kind of just opened up Photoshop and put all these parts together, and they actually fit together with the new logic board, the new rumored logic board that came out this week, because there's a picture of the logic board right now, and my order's a little bit messed up. So I should have talked about the logic board earlier, but I didn't. So anyway, yes, all these parts leak have so far, combine them all together, and you get this, this image of what all these parts leak could look like put together. And apparently the SIM card looks like micro SIM card, not a nano SIM card, which is weird because all of the other sources out there say that it's going to be a nano SIM card. So there seems to be some discrepancy when it comes to the size of the SIM card. And also, I remember hearing an article somewhere that it could be both. It could be both a micro and a nano. There are ways to do both. And speaking of the logic board that I didn't talk about earlier, nowhereelse.fr yet again has an image of what the iPhone 5's logic board could look like. And apparently they don't know what processor it uses, which would be, it would give us a good idea of what the iPhone 5's capability, if it was an A5X chip, or maybe an A5, or maybe an A6 chip. But yes, no chips included in this logic board. And the logic board does line up with the leaked shells out there. And let's see, carrier pre-orders from 9to5Mac says that all these carriers have been hit by the iPhone 5, and a lot of people have had, or the iPhone releases, and a lot of people have had troubles kind of ordering all of their stuff. Well, apparently all these carriers have set up a pre-order ticket system so that you can pre-order things in a civilized fashion. Fashion. I'm starting to fall apart, and yes. Oh no, this isn't good. And there's a video on YouTube actually from Smartphone Medic that shows a bunch of buttons that are included in the iPhone 5. And this video actually includes a nano SIM tray instead of a micro SIM tray. And the buttons are a little bit smaller, and they look somewhat similar to the iPhone 4 and the iPhone 4S. And now on to just weird news. For some reason, there's just a bunch of weird news that came out. The German, a German rewards club flyer kind of talks about the iPod Nano coming this September, where they said, we can't give you these iPod Nanos right now. It's kind of like a rewards thing, right? We can't give you iPod Nano because there's going to be a new one coming out in September, and we're going to give you the new one. So you guys are going to have to wait for that. But I don't think they have any more information than I do. I think they're just speculating. They want to make their customers happy, and you know what? This puts them in a news cycle. Now people know about this German rewards club business, but I actually don't, because I have no idea what the German rewards club business is called. Just drinking some water right there if you guys are listening to the audio version. And I'm looking at my time. I'm 17 minutes, almost 18 minutes into this thing. Okay, we'll keep going. iMore.com says that Authentic was purchased for its fingerprint technology. And I did talk about this before. And could it be used in the next iPhone? This was iMore's question, but I don't think so. There's probably no way that they can produce this stuff as quickly as possible. Though it is fascinating to note that the acquisition that Apple is trying to get, with Authentic, they're trying to rush this thing. They're trying to make it as fast as possible. And sticking with Authentic, Apple Insider kind of summarizes what Authentic could do for Apple and the iPhone and all the other iDevices we have out there. And there's actually a really cool line over here. I didn't highlight it, but actually another cool thing I learned from Authentic is that even when you're dead and they cut off your thumb and they try to use that as a fingerprint reader, it's still not going to work because you're dead. That's pretty cool. And here's another thing. This technology, Authentic's technology, could actually tell the difference between all your different fingers that are touching the screen. So that is more complicated UI stuff, but that means more control for us users. And also, this Authentic deal could give secure streaming capabilities to Apple, and they will actually need this secure streaming capability if they were gonna, beam live television from Apple's servers all the way down to the Apple TVs, you kind of want secure connection. Also, you want secure connection when you want to use DRM with all your videos. And there was one more thing I was going to talk about. That this fingerprint technology is possible that it could fit in the iPhone's home screen, which would be pretty cool. And yeah. Day4.se talks about the asymmetric screw being fake. So apparently, I think this was them that made it. So they made, they made this fake screw article that I kind of fell for last time. But I remember mentioning that this could be fake. So yes. So a lot of people have reported about the fake screw that I talked about last week. And the fascinating thing was, a lot of readers of 9to5Mac and Mac Rumors and all that stuff, a lot of readers thought that it was real. So they reported it to the social networks as being a fact, while in the meantime, all these websites have reported it as being like, okay, it could be real, but we're kind of hedging our bets on it. And daringfireball.net has an argument as to why the iPad mini should be called an iPad Air. Oh, actually, this is it. Here we go. I pressed the wrong button. We're actually in the headlines section, and I don't have a lot of headlines this week, which is kind of unfortunate because I've already passed my 20-minute mark, and I have a few more stories to talk about. Let's keep going with another headline, and this is from BGR.com. They say that the iPhone 5 could come at the end of September. Why? Because AT&T has an all-hands-on-deck kind of policy. And that another event from the AT&T, they had an event in a September, and they moved it all the way out in October. iMore.com, another headline, talks about the iPhone 5 pre-order being on September 12th. So right on September 12th, if this was the date that they were going to announce the iPhone 5, you're going to be able to pre-order it. It's going to release on the 21st, and the international release date will be on October 5th. This is actually really important for you guys. Mark that on your calendars. Keep that in mind. And MacRumors.com says that Korean carriers are asking Apple to give iPhone 5 800 to 1800 megahertz LTE capability. Right now, I'm going to go through memory, and I think the iPad's LTE capabilities are 700 to 2100 megahertz. I think that's a spectrum, or those are the two frequencies that they're acting on right now. So yes, Korean carriers are asking the iPhone 5. But here's the thing. I'm gonna go past this whole headlines thing. It doesn't really make sense for them to ask Apple because the iPhone 5's capabilities are probably set in stone right now. It's not like they can just change it all of a sudden. Another headline from MacRumors.com. They say that the MacBook Pro 13-inch Retina display MacBook Pro has yet another Geekbench score from Geekbench. And the Cult of Mac says that the Cult of Mac has a really good roundup of what would be in the iPad mini and what they think they know about the iPad mini, and it's a pretty good article. And here we go. Patents and speculations and just pie in the sky stuff, and I am way over time with this with my goal, so I'm probably gonna blast through this real quickly. Apple has a patent for in-cell touch technology. I really did talk about in-cell a long time ago. We've still been talking about in-cell technology, and they have a patent on it. And they also have a patent on mobile shopping. This is from patentlyapple.com again. There is they patented like this shopping application, kind of like an iWallet kind of a deal there. And AppleInsider.com says that there's going to be, this is my last piece of article. AppleInsider.com says that there's actually a possibility that there would be light on your touchpads on your iPod, the iPod click wheel, and the touchpads on your MacBook Pros and Magic touchpad, Magic trackpad. Apparently, it could be illuminated. That's right, because there's a patent showing that it could be illuminated, and I was reading through this patent and I was like, useless. Like, why would I need these features? One of the features is that when you scroll, when you kind of track your finger back and forth, light is gonna follow your finger. That's completely useless to me. I can't see how that could increase my productivity in any way whatsoever. But these are the two things that they said that made sense to me. One is that the touchpad could actually be used as a media player kind of control. So you can see something light up on your touchpad, and you can press that and that's pause. You can press another section and that's play. That's actually pretty cool. Also, the touchpad could show if your MacBook Pro is in sleep mode. So right now, if I shut down my MacBook Pro or if I put it in sleep, there's this piece of light, that blinks. Well, the same thing could be done with the trackpad. And wow, that is it. I didn't quite make my, let's play this right now. I didn't quite make my my goal of doing this whole thing in 20 minutes or less, but I did make it 30 minutes or less. I guess that's pretty good. I'm close to 25 minutes. Oh, wow. I'm totally just rambling right now. I mean, I'm waiting for this music to end. Actually, let's wrap things up. If you guys want to email me, if you guys want to get in touch with me, applebrut@gmail.com. Check out the website applebrut.com for the show notes of this show. And yeah, all right. That's it, guys. Thanks a lot for listening, and I'll talk to you guys again next time.